August 16th, 2013. The new word for the day, or for the century, I'm going to call it Fukushima. We all better get used to that name. I don't know how many reports I've seen lately, but a ton, and it's getting worse, and nobody in the main media is saying anything about it. But back in 2011, and their 9.0 earthquake that hit pretty well destroyed that whole region. And at that time, it destroyed these 3 power plants. They started a meltdown, a major meltdown. And of course, Japan came out and said, no big deal, you know, we've got it all under control. And our government, pretty well the same thing. I hadn't said anything about it. And then, of course, started getting hot, and next thing you know, a giant meltdown. And so they started bringing in water to try to cool it off, and they've been trying to cool it off ever since. But all the wastewater is going into our oceans, and that's been going into our oceans for the last 800 plus days. Excuse me. So all that's going to the Pacific Ocean, all of it's also the steam from the power plants going into the atmosphere, which is going right straight towards the United States. Sometimes it depends on the jet stream. It goes up towards Alaska and it cuts back down through Canada, goes to the U.S. or straight right to the West Coast. But the bottom line to it is that people have been getting sick and sicker since 2011, and radiation is showing up in all different types of either sea life and animal life between here and Japan. So what's the reason for my video? Well, it's just not Fukushima that I'm concerned about. Well, let me backtrack. Fukushima is causing, I believe, a lot more than what our governments are telling us. We're having mass animal deaths daily, all over the world. Most of it's sea life. Dolphins are dying, and whales are dying, fish, salmon, all different types of salmon, tuna. There's vegetables that are growing in Japan around the Fukushima plant that are deformed, dwarfed insects that are, I don't know, something out of Hollywood. I mean, they're deformed and twice the size of their normal selves, like a moth, 3 times its normal size, deformed. So this stuff's going on, and we're breathing it. So it's destroying the ocean, destroying bird life. There's birds falling right out of the air dead. Just happened last week in Canada. Nobody's saying that's what it is, but it's awful coincidental that these things are going on at the same time. Also, we're going through a pole shift, and the pole shift is having a major effect, I believe, on birds, on their in-home directional system in their body that tells them to go from place to place, and they're messed up because they're flying in different directions. Just like the other day, they had a flock of seagulls fly hundreds of miles inland in Nevada, out in the middle of the desert and land, and a lot of them died because there was no water around. Well, why would they fly that direction unless something like that's going on? So this Fukushima thing, and our pole shift, and also the wrath of God. You know, our nation decided a few years back just to thumb their nose at God, and they're laughing at God. Well, you know, God always has the last laugh, and it's probably not really funny, but it's to him, it's disgusting to him. His own creation, kicking God out of everything that's humanly possible in this country, replacing it with homosexuality, other gods, people who claim they're gods, movie stars who actually claim that they're a god, our own president who has been called Lord and Savior, King of Kings, people praying to him. All this stuff is going to have a ripple effect on us. And he allows catastrophes to happen when he knows man doesn't need him anymore, like this Fukushima thing. In Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13, those three books are three good books to read. But it talks about in the end times where pestilence, disease will kill a third of mankind. And most of the sea life will be dead when this all starts. And by the time God gets here, and Christ gets here, it'll all be dead. So, we can sit here and ignore this like it doesn't matter or it doesn't exist. And we can tell ourselves that tomorrow is going to be just like the same as it was in 1963, and it's no big deal. Or we can wake up and try to do something and make a stand and tell our governments that they're allowing us to be poisoned. Right now we're being poisoned. And then there's another subject on top of this I can't go into because it's a pretty lengthy study, but I'll touch base on it. It's chemtrails. And for you people out there that don't know what a chemtrail is, there's a contrail, which is basically water vapor that comes out of the back end of a jet. And then there's a chemtrail that comes out for miles and miles and miles, and it stays up there and stays up there, and then it widens, spreads out. Next thing you know, you got this ugly looking film in the sky. Look up sometime. You can see the difference between a contrail and a chemtrail. And when they decide to chemtrail, it looks like a giant spider web. And it's full of chemicals, aluminum, all kinds of things that come down through our atmosphere and lands in, on our land. It lands in our waters. And maybe that's what's killing these fish too. That. And so not only are we getting poison from Fukushima, but we're getting the effects from these chemtrails. And these chemtrails are disgusting. They make me sick. And whoever's flying these jets knows what's going on. And you talk about a group of people that have no soul. Well, there you go. Anybody that would poison their own kind below them, knowingly doing it. Bill Gates funds it. He's the funding behind it. He's big on depopulation. You ought to read bios on Bill Gates and how he feels about the population of this planet. His mission right now is to remove as many people on this planet as he can through chemtrails and also through all the different types of shots they're passing out in the public now to get immunized that they use as supposedly cures or is a major defender against the flu and all those kind of shots. So all of them backed by the government, all of them designed by the government, his funding of course, and so he's part of the Illuminati group. And he's part of the elite that have one mission, and that is to depopulate. Now, if you don't believe that, and if you don't believe anything about the Illuminati, then what you need to do is study the Georgia Guidestones that they put up. It's written in 8 different languages, I believe, and their mission is to have the whole world depopulated to 500 million. And the only way we're going to do that is through war and pestilence and disease. And maybe bullets. So, we got a lot of things going on to make man sick. And they're doing a really good job of it. So between being chemtrailed to death and then our food that we're eating, and that's another story as well. I mean, China is supplying a good chunk of the food products to the U.S. They're our enemy. I don't care if we do business with them or not. They don't like Americans, but they'll take your money. But what do you think they're doing to all that food? And they're shipping it to us. They're laughing at us, and we're eating it. We're eating their poison. I won't eat anything. If I see something that's got China on it, I won't eat it. If I only know what it is, on the label, I won't eat it. I went through a section here the other day on, what they do to fish over there and how they grow, vegetables and fruits and human waste. No way am I eating any of that stuff. So look at your labels, guys. Look at it and see where it comes from. But the world we live in right now, between the Fukushima plant with mass radiation coming at us, 300 tons plus of nuclear water, wastewater going into the oceans. You can't tell me that that's not having major effects on tuna fisheries and salmon fisheries in the oceans. And then we've lost 31% of the honeybee population worldwide. Just yesterday, over 1 million bees died in one place. Honeybees. We're losing our honeybees. What's killing them? Nobody's saying. So you can't be spraying this stuff up in the air, and you can't have this nuke stuff coming at us in the air and the water and not think it's not going to have some type of an effect. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist. One thing God's blessed me with over the years is common sense. Common sense tells me when you have all that stuff going on, then there's something wrong. So, look into it, guys. You guys see anything out there new, send me a memo on it. Send me something so we can add to our research. But Fukushima, Chem-Trails are the two biggies, I believe, and then the food. This GMO food that they're producing is full of poisons. And so they're not getting you one way, they're getting you here or there. They're doing a great job. And then all they got to do is add war to it. Add war to it, mixed in with all the other stuff, they'll get rid of the populations pretty quick. So they can control 500 million worldwide. They can't control 6 billion. And they know that. So, anyway, August 16th, 2013. You guys have a great weekend.